Why is Loki from the MCU active? Is the question you may have asked yourself, and I'm here to break down for you today. You are welcome. So what we're going to do today, I was thinking about this yesterday. I went for a hike, well, it's kind of a stroll, and I was thinking about this and it came through, and I have 4 points to cover with you in terms of why it is there are so many people who are thirsty for this character. Now, before I get into it, I just want to give you a bit of context because I think this is important. But maybe those of you that have found this in a Loki tag and you're full on in the fandom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's maybe some people who are like, what are you talking about? Especially those of you that have known me for a while, and I've just started to talk about examples in entertainment and film and movies and all of that. Let's give you some context. So for those that don't know, I did a video this week on breaking down some of the relationship patterns and attachment styles we're seeing in the Disney Plus series Loki. And I'll link that up above in case you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth a watch. And it got me to thinking about this whole phenomenon that we saw around this character, particularly like back in the day, right? Back in like 2013 to 2016, where everything just exploded in a way that I've never seen before. Let me just make sure I'm not burning my arm because there's a candle there. We are going to be talking about masochism in a second, so maybe that's relevant. I was on Tumblr, like probably quite prevalently between like 2010 to 2016. I've sunk thousands of hours into Tumblr, so might as well put it to good use. And I was in like a fandom of like an athletics fandom, let's call it. Those of you that know me from that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I was writing a very prolific fan fiction in that fandom. And then I was in a DC Comics fandom, Gotham. And around this time, you know, I kept seeing everything popping up on my feed. Like it was the time on Tumblr when Jennifer Lawrence, funny gifs, those two guys from Supernatural, and like Loki was popping up everywhere. And I said to a friend that I was on Tumblr with, I was like, hey, why is everyone crazy for this character? I don't understand what it is. I've seen the images, I've seen the gifs. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, what is this? And she went, you've seen the Avengers, right? I'm like, well, no, I'm a DC girl. She's like, watch the Avengers, Cheryl. I'm like, well, yeah. Da, da. She said, just watch it. You'll understand. I didn't. I did not, because I'm stubborn. I was like, nope, don't think so. So I continued to not understand and continued to deprive myself of this wonderful, glorious experience. And eventually watched it in like, I think it was 2015 or 16, at which point I was on my own personal journey with my sexuality. And I saw this film, The Avengers, and I went, oh, no further questions, Your Honor. No further questions. Case dismissed. I understood. And I understood exactly what was going on. And I think what's interesting and what we saw with this is it really exploded in a way that we've not really seen before, I don't think, with any character from any film, particularly with regards to the sexual attraction piece. So the first 2 points I'm going to cover are with regards to sexual attraction, and the other 2 points are just about general like fascination and being drawn to this character. The sexual attraction piece is really, really potent. And my intention today, yes, we're talking about Loki from the MCU. It's very juicy, very exciting. And at the same time, my intention is for you to really use this as an opportunity to understand yourself at a deeper level. So what I'd like to ask, for you to ask yourself as we go through this, and I am going to crack on in a minute, I promise. What I'd like you to ask yourself is, what does this tell me about myself and my desires? How can I tap into my hidden desires and bring them to life in a way that's in integrity, right? So before we get started, let me tell you who I am and what I do. If you haven't met me before, I'm Cheryl Muir. I'm a relationship expert, relationship whisperer, and I help people overcome a lifetime of painful patterns in love, help them overcome heartbreak and help them to find love. And the people I work with now are in film, television, media, music as well. And I also work with entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, influencers, and cosplayers. So by understanding ourselves at a deeper level and what we're attracted to, we very much help ourselves to find love. So even though we're talking about this in a fictional circumstance, again, I do really want you to use this as a model to understand yourself and your desires at a deeper level. Are you excited? I am. Okay. Also, quick last thought before we do actually crack on. I promise I will now. Last thought is, one, this is a completely ridiculous video to make. I'm fully aware of that fact. I'm self-aware enough to know that this is the most ridiculous video I've ever made in my career so far. And the second thing is, I'm really nervous. So I just wanted to voice those two things. I actually feel like I might burst into flames with one, excitement, and two, fear. So I just want to put that out there. Like, I'm fully aware it's ridiculous, and I'm very, very nervous because I've never talked about this before, though I did do a video about why you thirst after the villains in general. I'll link that up above. I'm not going to repeat the points here, but this feels different because it's very specific, and I mean, let's just say it as it is, a little personal. So the first reason why we saw this real explosion of attraction towards this character Loki, first point, numero uno, primal and animalistic desire. We're 6 minutes into the video. Aren't you glad you waited to this point, because we're getting juicy now? Primal and animalistic desire. What the fuck does that mean? Loki embodies the dark masculine. None of the other characters in that movie franchise do. And this is one of the reasons why the sexual attraction was off the charts. What is the dark masculine? It is an embodiment of an energy that could be described as, like back in the day, back in like Sparta, when you have a warrior with a sword who's like slaying the invading people from the neighboring town. He's like, you're not coming into my village. You're not, you know, raping and pillaging and stealing our children. No. And there's the sword, and there's like blood dripping down him, and he's like, no, Sparta, like really dark masculine, like I will kill to protect, right? I'm going to talk about this in a very straight capacity, by the way, just because we're talking about procreation. So what do you think happens then as a woman who is in that village going, I need a man who's going to protect my children from when a fucking wolf runs through the village in the middle of the night. I need a man that's going to be able to slay the fucking wolf, the threat, dark masculine. So she goes for the warrior, right, that's going to be able to protect her kids. There is research, and I'm not going to do citations because it's not a fucking TED talk, it's just me talking shit on the internet, so Google it if you want the references, but there's research to suggest that when women look at photos of men and they try and pick the most attractive, the people they pick have the highest sperm counts. Make of that what you will. So whether or not you want children, I actually don't want children, but it doesn't mean that we're not encoded with this. And I know this is also like a feminist's worst nightmare. So if you want to leave me hate down in the comments, go for it. The more comments you leave, the more people see the video. So it really helps me out. So thank you. I know this isn't politically correct, but it's still encoded into our body as women. Unconsciously, we're trying to find the partner that's going to protect our children. That's why we find someone sexy if they have this dark masculine energy. I'm going to bring it back to Loki in a second, but before I do, there's a book called The Weight of the Superior Man by Deida. I'll link my Amazon shop down below because I've got like a library of books that I recommend, and that book is linked there. The Weight of the Superior Man. There's a chapter called She Wants the Killer in You, and it talks about the dark masculine energy, and it basically says if you're a woman and you're lying next to your partner in the middle of the night and there's an intruder and your male partner says to you, oh babe, I think someone's in the house, can you go and check it out for me, I'm really scared, would you be turned on by that, or yes or no? No, not at all. So imagine now, and what I'm about to say, I should not be saying this on the internet, but I'm going to. Imagine Loki is your partner. You're in bed, keep it clean, you're in bed in the fucking palace of Asgard or whatever. Someone breaks in. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to be like, stay there, I've got my daggers, I'm going to fuck some shit up. I'm going to cut a bitch, right? Does this mean we want someone in real life that's a murderer? Of fucking course not, no. But it might mean you enjoy a partner who takes charge, who you can feel safe and protected with, who you can soften into, right? I know, as I'm a very driven woman, and it took me a really long time to learn how to soften and really allow myself to lean on a partner and lean on other people. I haven't lost my fire, as you can probably tell. Never going to lose that. But what I did lose was all the things holding me back from actually being supportive. So you might find that you find this character attractive because you're encoded with that desire to be with someone that actually is going to protect you, right? Now, I think it's worth saying with this, there's a lot of conversation, usually from straight men. They go, oh, all the women are like the villain, they're like really fucked up and they date psychopaths and they stay in the wrong relationships. I don't think that's the case a fucking tall. I swear a lot, by the way. If that's not your thing, it might not be for you. I don't think that's the case at all. I think women who like this character are actually very intelligent and just can't figure out why. Why is this turning me on? A question I've asked myself a lot over the years about various different things, and I encourage you to ask it as well. Why is this turning me on? Because there's something there for you. There's information there for you that's giving you clues about what you want. And when we don't understand that, we don't understand our attraction and desire to this character, that's when people become obsessed. Like, oh my God, I'm never going to find a man like Loki. You don't want to, but you do want to figure out why is it that this is turning me on. It's the primal and animalistic desire. He embodies the dark masculine. And I would definitely go to the Way of the Superior Man book and read She Wants the Killer in You. Very interesting stuff. So, number 1, primal animalistic desire. 2, kinky subtext. Literally, members of the cast of the movies have spoke to this. They've talked about it. We're not imagining it. So, what does BDSM stand for? The letters stand for multiple things. So the B can stand for bondage. The D can stand for dominance or discipline. The S can stand for submission and sadism. And the M is masochism. I think I've covered all of them. So we see all of these things. We see all of these things in this character, Loki. Because I remember watching the Avengers and I'm like, did they have to put him in leather? Was that really necessary? By the way, can you tell I've got my leather jacket and I'm wearing black in solidarity with my leather compadres. They're like, how can we make this character irresistible? Let's dress him in leather. Let's dress him in leather. Incidentally, like, you know, Marvel have done this whole thing of, we didn't know. We just didn't know people would love this character. And I'm like, really? I call bullshit, Marvel, with love. Like, Marvel, we've known each other for a decade or more now. Just tell us the truth. We won't be mad. Just be honest with us. Just let's have a come to Jesus moment. Just be honest with us. I don't know, man. I just find it difficult to believe that they're surprised by this because they've created fangirl catnip and I'm able to break it down quite easily with a very basic, I mean, this is what I do professionally, but this is not difficult to understand. I'm not sure why someone wasn't like, hey, I think we're on something here. So kinky subtext. So we've seen examples of his dominance, his sadism, his masochism, his submission and humiliation and bondage. Would you like me to give examples? Why don't you give me examples in the comments, actually, because I'm sure I'm going to miss some. Dominance and sadism is most prevalent in the Avengers, where he's the lead dude, the villain. Totally makes sense. And it's also kind of prevalent in the Dark World to perhaps a lesser extent, but it's not as prevalent in Thor Ragnarok and then the resulting movies. I'm really concentrating on the sexual attraction that occurred in the Avengers and the Dark World, like that, and not really the first Thor movie because he was in a different vibe, but I'm talking about like peak hotness time. So we saw that dominance and sadism, like he was very dominant, like the way he walks, the way he talks is very like dom as fuck. It's like big dom energy. Sorry, I'm just laughing at myself. It's so like ridiculous that I'm making a video on this, but I'm having fun. Hopefully you're having fun too. And if not, whatever. The sadism, he was very sadistic. We saw him trying to hurt people. Again, we're not condoning that, but this dominance and the sadism, he's wearing a lot of leather. There's certain connotations you can make from that, certain assumptions, right? Masochism. Oh, with the masochism, how many times has he been slapped and enjoyed it? I'm not talking about episode 4 of the Loki series. That was actually really sad. It actually made me cry. It was really, really sad. But I'm talking about in the second Thor movie, I think it was, where Jane slaps him. And she's like, that's for New York, because he killed like 80 people in 2 days. And she slaps him and he's just like grinning from ear to ear. And he just goes, I like her. Masochism. By the way, do you all know the difference between sadism and masochism? Should I explain? Sadism is inflicting pain. Masochism is receiving pain. Submission and humiliation. So when I first watched the Avengers, I got to the end of the film, and there's that scene where like they capture him, and they had him in chains, and he had like a muzzle over his fat face, and I'm like, oh God, sweet buttery Christ, what? And I'm like, am I just, is it just me seeing this because I have a dirty mind? And at the time I was very much becoming aware of my sexuality and preferences and kinky nature and all that. And I was like, I think I'm just like imagining this. Like, this is just me taking it out of context. No. Do you know how many people have picked up on this and gone, this is a very kinky subtext? And then they take him to Asgard, he's chained, is all some kinky shit, right? So that's the submission part. And he's always being humiliated, and humiliation can be part of kink as well, right? But he's like humiliated all the time. I did some research yesterday, so this is not just me talking shit. I did some research yesterday, and I found an article, and I'll link it down below if I find it. If I find it again, basically there was a writer saying what the series Loki on Disney Plus reminds me of is how Marvel movies are completely sexless. But then she went into how they give like all this like subtext to by the way, which is it's not influencing what I'm saying, but she kind of validated what I was thinking. She said there's all this BDSM subtext throughout, and yet they're not showing intimacy and sex in the movies, but they really heavily suggest it. And she picked out some scenes in the Disney Plus series that I hadn't picked up on. And she talks about the scene where he's stripped of his Asgardian leather. Now, when I saw that, I saw it and I was like, I felt a lot of empathy for him in that moment. And I thought it was symbolic of him being stripped of his power, right, and status. He's stripped of his power and status, which is what that outfit represents. But she said something like, I should have found the article. Bollocks. Anyway, she basically said in the article, like, being like stripped naked in a room, being humiliated and having a collar on is like submission. And I'm like, I didn't see it that way, but she's totally right. And then there's the whole thing of him being on his knees with a collar on that we just saw in episode 4. I didn't get that vibe when I saw it because I thought it was an emotional scene, but a lot of people are like, this is going to be the image that launches 1,000 fan fictions. So again, with the submission and the humiliation, bondage, we've talked about when he gets captured at the end of the Avengers, and then he's sent before Odin on trial, and then he's put in prison. And then, in Thor Ragnarok, he's in chains again. Like, he's getting tied up a lot. I mean, he's obviously a switch, which is such a vibe. So kinky subtext. So first 2 points. This is going to be a very long video, by the way, but I feel like this topic deserves some space to breathe. So primal and animalistic desire, right? And then kinky subtext. So with one of those, with the primal and animalistic desire and the dark masculine, that's very alluring and very attractive. It's going to flick on a switch in you didn't even know was there because it's deeply encoded in our system as women, particularly. The kinky subtext, that alone is going to ignite some thoughts in those of us who are not vanilla. Shockingly, I'm not. I know, such a shock. You'd never have guessed that. But here's where it gets really interesting. Primal and animalistic desire and kinky subtext together, it explodes. That's why with this, we saw this explosion of attraction and obsession with this character because of the combination of those two things, which we've never seen combined before in this way on this level of platform, right? And we saw it on such a massive scale because so many people saw that first Avengers movie. I think it grossed like 800 million at the box office, almost $1 billion at the box office. Millions and millions and millions of people saw this, and we saw such a mass of people responding in the same way. This is not like 2 or 3 fangirls. This is like there's millions of people who have this experience, and this is why it's the combination of those two things. What do you think of this so far? Do you agree? Are you with me? Is this illuminating and revealing? So I have 2 more points, and these are slightly different. So we've covered the real sexuality, attraction piece and desire piece. These 2 are not really about that, but it does explain why we're so drawn to this character. So what's my note here? Interdimensional divine being. Casual. He's a god. We know he's a god. So who are the Asgardians and what do they represent? They're this advanced civilization who kind of seem like an ancient civilization, but they're actually very futuristic. They're very, very advanced. They're in another realm, right? The realm is Asgard, one of the 9 realms. And we're in a realm called Midgard, which is Earth, right? So it's really interesting because there's this juxtaposition between fantasy and reality. Like Midgard, Earth is a place that exists. We're on it. Hello, hi, we're on Earth. Asgard is this fictional place. But they represent this advanced civilization, right? What's to say there's not an advanced civilization that we haven't discovered yet that has a similar vibe? Is this actually us being really drawn to a civilization where part of us, part of our soul goes, I kind of think that's possible. Something in that feels either familiar or it feels laced with possibility. And I think there's somewhere that we can go here. I think this represents what might be possible for us as a civilization in the future, right? Now let's go with the whole thing of Loki being this being who is very divine. We hear over and over again, he's a god, he's a god, he's a god, he's a god. So why would you be drawn to a god or a godlike creature? Well, we know that the Asgardians live about 5,000 years, or certainly the royal family does. Odin did. I love how when he got to the end of his life, he just slept a lot. I'm like, this is a total vibe. But we know that Loki is about 1,000 years old. Looks good for 1,000 years old. He's about 1,000 years old, and he is going to live for about 5,000 years. Right? He says that in either, is it the start of the Dark World or the end of the Avengers, where Odin says to him, like, we're not. He says, I went to rule the earth as a benevolent god. And he said, we're not gods. We live and die just like humans do. And Loki's like, yeah, give or take 5,000 years. Smug grin. So he's going to live for about 5,000 years. So we're like, oh wow, he's this like really advanced being, sort of an alien. Cool, but did you know that like we're not our bodies? We're not like, you are not like Natalie, who's 31, who lives in Brooklyn. This is not like who's just got this body and that's all you know. You're a divine being. You have a soul. You've been here before, right? I'm not going to get into past lives here because it's not really the place to unpack it. But again, in my library of books on Amazon, you'll find the books that I've read on past lives. I think you'll find it fascinating. So you've been here before. I've been here before. Some of us have been here over the course of like 4,000 years. So yes, this being is 5,000 or going to be 5,000 years old. 1,000 years old. So like the reflection of our own divinity, right? I'm being reminded of that line in the Wonder Woman film, DC Marvel, how controversial. If you haven't seen the 2017 Wonder Woman film, I'm about to give you a massive spoiler. When she puts her sword through him and it disintegrates and she shooketh, and she's like, the God Killer. He goes, that's not the God Killer, Diana. You are. Only a god can kill another god. Holy shit, Diana is a demigoddess. She didn't know. So why do you think then you're attracted to this god-like being, this god being that we call Loki, who's this fictional character? Why are you attracted to a god? You're attracted to his divinity because it's a reflection of the divinity within you. Bet you didn't think you were getting a lesson on spirituality when you clicked on this video. Done a bit of a bait and switch on you. But nevertheless, you're attracted to his divinity because it's a reflection of the divine within you and the divine within all of us, right? There's a lot of truth and a lot of lies in movies in that we see it and we're like, oh, that's just fiction. But actually, there's a lot of truth there, right? There's a lot of truth about who we are and our power, which leads me to final point number 4, which is this magic that he has, right? He's the god of mischief, but he's a sorcerer, really. He has these magic skills. He has this ability to conjure up anything. That is the magician archetype. And the magician has the power to create their life, to use their energy, to use their life force to create something. I was just on a call with my coach and mentor earlier on this morning, and we were talking about this, and she was saying the magician has the ability to like pull the rabbit out the hat. So this is your ability to create your own life and to manifest and to call things into your life with your energy, your thoughts, your feelings, your intention. This is not woo-woo, this is real, right? So is it the same as we see Loki using magic in the film? No, it's not the same. it's not exactly the same, but there's some truth there, right? We have a lot of power. So you're attracted to his magic because part of you knows you're fucking magical, right? Just like the fact that you're attracted to a god because you're a fucking goddess. Hello. You're attracted to his power because it's a reflection of the power within you and the power that you have to create your life. So, how are you all holding up? I'm just blowing your mind. I'm gonna, before I recap real quick, I'm just going to give some other bonuses and let me know in the comments if I've missed anything. I'm sure I have. What do you find attractive about him? I can't list every possible fucking thing. We'd be here all day. But some other attributes. He has a very strong physical presence. Like he's very tall and he's like got this very confident posture. I don't know if that's just a costume, if it's very rigid and you like can't actually move in it, but he has this physical presence which is quite palpable and undeniable when you see it on screen. Incidentally, again, back to my former point, like when they were filming this, when they were filming like the Avengers particularly, do you not think there were some women, probably some men as well, let's face it, do you not think there were some women that were like on the crew that were like, fuck man, like can someone get some more ice in my drink because like it's getting warm in here? Do you not think someone held up their hand and went, excuse me, director, producer, I just think you should know people are going to lose their fucking shit over this. I'm sure there was someone on set that was like, whoo. That is why I don't work on movie sets, but there must have been someone that's like, damn, because we all thought the same thing. There must have been someone on the crew that thought that. So he has this very strong physical presence, this confident posture. It's palpable. You feel it when he walks into a room. He doesn't like scuttle into a room like, oh, meek. And he's like, I'm fucking here. I'm going to fuck shit up. So he's also got this like mischief and fun. We know this. It's kind of obvious. I'm not going to expand on it, but he's obviously not going to be boring. That can be quite attractive. In terms of sexual attraction, you can start to make some assumptions. If someone's very mischievous and fun, they're probably going to be very varied and exciting behind closed doors. His eyes have a real intensity. And I would suspect the Scorpio is strong in this one. I suspect he has a lot of Scorpio energy and Scorpio vibes, which is very powerful, very magnetic, very sexual. I have a Scorpio rising and I have a Scorpio south node and I have a Pluto in Scorpio. So I have quite a lot of Scorpio in my chart. There's lower and higher expressions of it, but at its best, it's very intense, very magnetic. It's a very alluring sexual energy. And so I suspect the Scorpio is strong in Loki. Final point. An obvious one, he's got a tragic backstory, right? So the attraction is like, oh, I feel for this person, right? So I'm going to recap real quick. So we had the primal animalistic desire, the dark masculine, knowing that that's the type of person that you could procreate with who would protect your children. It doesn't matter that we've evolved beyond that mentally. It's still there in our system, which is why you're sexually attracted, because part of you is going procreate, 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 even though it doesn't make any fucking sense. 2, kinky subtext. We've got dominance, sadism, masochism, submission, humiliation, bondage, and leather, all present in all the films. It's a whole thing. And then having those two things together makes it explode, right? It's very powerful. 3, he's an interdimensional divine being. It's a reflection of the divinity within you. You are attracted to a god because it's a reflection of the divine within you, and the goddess codes you have within you that can be activated. I'm going to link something below. I didn't plan to do this. I'm going to link a goddess activation for you. This is really totally unrelated. But if you want to activate your goddess coding within you and embody your goddess, click down below. And 4th and final thing, magic skills. He has the magician archetype and it's reflecting your ability and your power to create your life. Other attributes were strong physical presence, confident posture, mischief and fun. He's not boring, intense eyes, Scorpio energy, tragic backstory. Boom shakalaka. We've got it done in under half an hour. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, I'll reply to them. And yeah, I'm not going to be able to monetize this video because I'm going to have to age restrict it because it's quite scandalous and salacious and saucy, and definitely want to protect the younger fans. So I'm going to put an age restriction on it, which means to support me, I'd really appreciate it if you could like it, and comment. And if you can share it on the Tumblr machine or Twitter or whatever you feel safe to share, I would love that too. You can find me here. You can subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I have a series called Relationship Expert Reacts, where I'm reacting to TV series. I'm doing Loki at the moment, this series, and breaking down some of the archetypes we're seeing in there and learning about like relationship styles and relational styles and the way we connect to people. And I'm also going to start doing, I'm going to do a bit of a series on Wonder Woman, I think, about why it is as women we're really attracted to her, not in an attraction sexual way, though I could cover that, but we're going to talk about why it is we feel such an affinity to Wonder Woman. So I'm going to do that as well. What else? Oh, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. My handles there are Cheryl J. Muir. My website is cherylmuir.com. And no surprises, I'm also on the Tumblr machine. I love you. Thank you for being here. Mwah. You're beautiful. Embrace yourself. I love you.